Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Iron Age Marketing. As always, I am Nicky P. Today, I'm here with Kristen McTiernan. This could be a little bit different of a show because normally we bring on people that are promoting fiction of some kind. But Kristen actually posted a book the other day that was a nonfiction book that I thought would really feed into, ways to better your marketing. It's maybe a roundabout way of looking at things, but it got the juices in my head flowing, and I kind of wanted to bring that to you here. But why don't we start out with you telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you find yourself here?
All right, fantastic. Well, like you said, I am Kristen McTiernan, and I kind of had a very interesting way of ending up where I am. My business is the Nonsense-Free Editor, and the reason I started it was to fund my fiction career. I joined the military right out of high school. And when I was done with that, I thought I wanted to be a high school English teacher. Writing and language arts are really the only thing I've ever been good at. There's no secondary skill set. It's just all books. But when I got into the student teaching portion, and this is even back in, I think it was 2006 when I did my student teaching, I determined it was not the career path for me. And so I said, well, I've got this English degree. Well, what else do I do with it? What does one do with an English literature degree? And, I'm a military brat and I spent my time in the military. And so I looked at USA jobs and found that actually the federal government needs a lot of editors. And, so I got an entry level job as a technical editor. And that's really great because, not to get too into it, but the stereotypes about federal employees are true. So I had a lot of time to work on my books while I was a federal employee, and I was strengthening my skills. And so I was being a technical editor, doing for flight manuals and curriculum material. So just kind of getting a trial by fire, becoming a better writer, becoming a better editor. And then when I moved back to my home state of Kansas, I was like, well, I kind of want to not just be a federal employee. I kind of want to start something for myself. And also self-publishing is expensive. And my first book, I did everything wrong. Oh, I'm so glad you have this for marketing because I just wrote it and put it up on Amazon because surely people will just find it. That's how it works, right? And I made the cover myself and it was awful. So on the second book, when I realized how much money it would take to do it properly with marketing and with a good cover and with an actual editor instead of just my mom, I was like, I need a side hustle. So I started doing that in 2011 and slowly but surely the Nonsense-Free Editor came into being and I went out fully on my own, not under a contracting company in 2017. And I've been doing it ever since.
Nice. Now, you do just editing or are there other things that you've picked up in that time period? Usually ghostwriting goes along with it, things like that.
Yes. So I do developmental and line editing. I do ghostwriting. I do self-publishing services. And this is usually for authors who either don't have the time or, sometimes older people. They don't want to fiddle around with KDP. They don't want to do any of that. I'll just upload it for them. I'll do the formatting for, kind of like the nuts and bolts of taking your finished book and getting it out. I do that.
I'm imagining you get a lot of that goes with, like, say, business people that I don't really care about a book, but someone told me the book will help me book podcasts. So here's a book. Let's get me booked.
Yeah. Nonfiction authors are really big on that. They don't want to be bothered with it. They're not authors. They're like, write it for me, format it for me, edit it for me, throw it up online for me and send me a link and then they send the link to their marketing person. That's all they want.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of the things I think that struck me when I saw your post on Twitter was that because so many people think of like the art as a creative process, I think that they forget for so many other people, it is just a thing that they have to get through to get to something at the other end. Like, especially within like the business community, they're not looking for creative. They're looking for the thing that distills my ideas into the simplest way I can get these out to people. And so, whereas, they're thinking of, oh, this isn't an artistic endeavor. There's a lot of people. No, this is just a business transaction that I need to get through.
Hmm. And that's why I'm actually very picky about who I do fiction ghostwriting for. Cause what I've found is sometimes someone will come to me and they'll say, okay, I'm ready to make this investment. I'm going to have you write my work of fiction for me. I've had this story in my head for a long time and I need to see it come to fruition. And I know I'll never write it myself. Fine. Great. That sounds fantastic. But what they end up wanting is, an assurance that it's going to be a bestseller because it deserves to be. And it's like, deserves got nothing to do with it, and then from the movie quote, marketing is what gets it done. We've all seen these horrible books that just complete trash from top to bottom, which sell like gangbusters. It doesn't matter because it's got a pretty cover or because a celebrity
It
endorsed
takes
it.
a lot of money to do
A
that,
lot of
though.
money, and it's everywhere. And so people buy it just because they see it 10 million times in a row and they just, fine, I'll buy it. I give in. I'll buy Fourth Wing.
My background's music, and that's how you manufacture pop songs. Is that if once you've heard a song more than like 3 times, it builds familiarity with the song, and then you just like it because you've heard it enough times. And that's how top 40 radio works. They just play it until you do like it.
There is no world in which I should have liked the song Party in the USA, and yet I kept listening
There's
to
no
it.
world in which anyone should like that song. Clearly, we do not live in that. We live in the worst timeline for
We
that.
really do. It was so terrible.
But there's a lot of psychology and understanding like why that is the case. Like just comfort and familiarity and social proof. Those are the things that psychologically we can't do anything about. That's how we operate as animals. So what introduced you to this idea to wanting to write this book as opposed to like your normal fiction that you write?
Well, it was twofold. The thing that sparked the idea in my head was there was a bit of a Twitter furor about using AI specifically in book covers and art. And there was, I think he runs his own indie pub house, and he had said something nasty, like he was going to blackball any author that he found out had ever used AI in his work in a cover, not in the actual interior. And that irritated me, and I made a video about it. And the response to that, I saw these despairing authors who were like, well, why should I even continue? I can't afford those $2,000 covers that publishing house guy said that I need for my fantasy book. Should I even bother? Am I going to be blackballed if I work with a person who's not from America? Am I depriving an American artist of jobs? And there was it wasn't being snarky. It was genuine despair of, I work a service job. I have a family. I can't afford to do what you're telling me to do to be respectable. So what do I do? And so that got me thinking. And of course I did my social media response, but I was like, well, I've never had to worry about that because I knew immediately I'm not cool enough to go viral on social media. I'm never going to be an influencer. If I want extra money, I need to get an extra job, and I can either do that, with the gig economy and do service work and I'm not a people person, or I can use the skill I have.
A writer who's not a people person. Go figure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm not one of those rare extroverted writers. No. So, and I was like, well, this is the one thing I'm good at. So I'm going to start a side hustle. And initially it was. A lot of people don't want to start a business. They don't want to leave their day job because they need health insurance or they need whatever. And the thing of my book is you don't have to. If you only want to make an extra $20,000 a year, that's perfectly respectable. And it's doable for just about anybody. You don't have to, live the dream and come and have a Maserati or whatever. No, just earn an extra $10,000 to $20,000 a year, fund your editor, fund your artist, pick which part of making money writing resonates best with you and do that. And you can, and you don't have to be a marketing genius or a cool person on social media to do it.
Well, and it's what's people focus on so much of the art. Like my first writing gig that I had, like doing online work, I still have this gig to this day, which mostly consists of me using AI tools. I writing blog posts that need to be SEO, set for an industry that I don't know anything about. But they want to put up blog posts to grab attention. Now, granted, this is becoming less and less thing because SEO matters less and less as everything is done through AI and ranking above the other things that are using AI to do their SEO becomes less and less of a thing. But the point being is that I could have they could have had to go find someone who's an expert in that field to write those. They're never going to be able to afford anyone who's an expert in a field to waste their time writing blog posts because they're doing what they're doing. So, having someone who knows enough to get the correct answers out of the AI, to get it to write the thing and then make it look pretty, because we know anyone who's ever used AI, for me, the idea that AI is going to take over your job as a writer any day soon, or certainly copywriting is my background, they're going to take that is laughable to me. But, there are quirks that you have to work through. So, but that's a job that you don't, once again, I came from music, so I've always been a man like, well, I've learned a skill set. I've learned how to perform. I learned how to play guitar and sing. And, there's not a lot of money going out and doing that with original music. But I can go make $300 myself doing an acoustic gig on a Friday or Saturday night. And I have the skill set to do that. So why am I leaving money on the table that could be helping to facilitate what I actually want to do? It's like, it's still way more fun to play guitar, even if it's just cover songs, than go sit in a factory for, a day. Like, this is a no-brainer trade to me. Like, you have the skill set, utilize it to do what you want to do.
Definitely. And I never like to minimize the art or tell people like, your idea isn't as original as you think it is. I mean, nobody's idea is, but sometimes people get very hung up on, the purity of the art and we have to do right by this story. And that's awesome. But would you be okay if your work didn't make any money? If you spent, $2,000 on this editor and you didn't, and, say you're artistic and you can do your own cover, would you be okay with never making a cent from it? And most people, even if it's not their full-time income, would say, no, because you write a book because you want people to read it and you want people to talk about your book with you. But if they never see it, if they're never exposed to it, even if it's just a small community, then, was it worth it?
Yeah. Well, and in any of the arts, you have to define why anyone does it. Like, there are those people who like, I can't not write. I'm going to do this, and whether or not anybody ever reads it, like, it's not going to stop me from doing it because I need to be creative. I know musicians like that, but there are other people that's like, well, I'm a dad. I've got a 10-year-old daughter, and if I'm going to spend a ton of time away from her on anything, it's kind of got to pull its own weight. Like, I can't just be doing art because it's fun at this point in my life. It better be pulling some money in or pulling some money in. Those are my options.
Right. Life gets in the way. And that's a big thing. And I do try to let people know that, especially as a service provider. And I think now with the independent author economy, there's a lot of poo-pooing. Oh, you're just a shovel seller. You don't actually make money writing. You make money with services. And that is true to the extent. But that's why I didn't write a book on, oh, here's how to make money by selling novels, because I haven't made enough money to write a book like that. But it's just like, well, what do you want to do? Okay, you want to do your art and you want to make money. Do you necessarily have to do both of those things with the same endeavor? So that was my thought. It's just like, well, let's write something useful, and then you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to have a whole business. You don't have to leave your day job. You can just have a little something extra to set up. And especially for parents, and if you don't have a work from home job, just having that extra time where it's like, yeah, you don't have to get up and go drive, an Uber or whatever. You can stay home with your kids and still earn extra money and do the thing that you love, and also improve your skills while you're doing it.
Do you feel like the pushback is getting better or worse? Like, the deeper we kind of move into this new renaissance or iron age, whatever you want to call it, of self-publishing?
I think it's a two-tiered system. So part of the giveaway of someone who is a tinkerer or a hobbyist, they've never even bothered looking into the business aspect. They tend to still be very snooty about it. They still think it's 2007. A lot of times people with trad pub aspirations will be like this, where it's like, oh, if I ever found out you used AI, even for outlining, I'm not going to speak to you again. It's usually people who have not waded in to the business side of authorship or art. They don't know what they're talking about. Once you get to the point where you put your heart and soul into something and you do everything right, you have that big launch for your book, you have the marketing, you got the right cover, you got the editor, and it's still kind of crickets. That's once you get to that stage, people are usually much more receptive. It's like, okay, I spent the money I was supposed to, but did I spend it smartly? Did I spend it on the right people? Do I have enough coming in? They kind of start shifting, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't make you less of an artist because you look at the business side as well as the art.